Predator, and today we're going to do a quick tour of our Predator engine lab. And what that is an actual engine remanufacturing facility in-house in our lobby here. You can come in and kind of check out an engine being built up. And we have an in-house dyno in the engine lab. But in short, we build up all of our engines in this room. And what that does is it ensures quality, because we're using the best products going into these engines, as well as quality control, because ultimately we're putting them together. We run them on the dyno before we do the conversion, so we can also ensure that we can load test it. We can run dyno numbers if you like that, and get you performance specs back before it actually goes in there. But more importantly, we're testing components on the engine that you just can't get to fail until it's installed into a truck and put a load on there. Once you get the load on there, sometimes you'll have some issues down the road, but we're actually seeing that beforehand because it's done in the engine lab here. So come on in here and we'll check this thing out. So, got Cheeto over here. Cheeto's setting up the dyno right now. We'll be running that in just a couple minutes. But a little bit about the dyno. This is a DYNOmite engine dyno, and specifically a diesel dyno. With the diesel dyno, we've got much higher amounts of torque that we can put into it. It's capable of handling about 5,000 foot-pounds of torque, which is huge. A gas dyno, it's probably 1,000 foot-pounds of torque at most. So it's specifically designed for this engine. And right here we've got a 6.6 Duramax diesel engine. This guy's putting out about 500 horsepower and about 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. Nothing too over the top. It's a great performer for the H1 Hummer. We also went through, did head studs, ARP head studs, ARP main studs, strengthened the block up quite a bit by doing that. It's just a great way to go. Kind of bulletproofs the engine. And then we also have upgraded fuel supply system. We go through all the turbos, so in essence we crack this whole thing apart, go through everything on the engine. So we'll see how Cheeto's doing in a couple minutes. We should be able to fire this thing up. Alright, so we just did a dyno pull, and let's check out the numbers. I think we got,
345, roughly.
So yeah, that's right in line with the stock LBZ Duramax engine,
yes,
which is 350 to 360 horsepower. And then what we see on foot-pounds of torque?
738 foot-pounds of torque.
So pretty solid numbers out of just a stock engine. And again, we're running these things stock initially. So you want to tell them why we run them stock?
Because it's still brand new, motor rebuilt, so you want to break it in just right. Don't want to break anything.
Yeah, you just don't want to put the hammer down on these guys initially.
No.
Break it in, you're actually adjusting the load on the truck, adjusting the RPM, so we'll actually sit there and rev it up and down, and then start putting a little bit of load on there, take it off, bring RPM back up, and it continues on for many, many hours. And then once we get quite a few hours on there, then we'll actually do a dyno pull. And so that's what we're doing now, is just doing some basic dyno pulls. It also adds a little bit more load to the engine, kind of further breaking it in. And then later on, we're going to actually start adding power. So Cheeto's going to get in there and start adding quite a bit of power to it if we need to. So we developed 345 horsepower. And that's in the stock format for the LBZ. That's right in line with 350 to 360 horsepower. So we're right there, which is the stock tune on there. And then what's cool about it is Cheeto can get in there and do a lot of tuning. And so you can modify it, increase the power, and then do another pull again. So, you know, walk them through that.
Yeah, we have files from previous runs, depending on what the motor has. So if it has an upgraded turbo, bigger injectors, up pipes, we can change it from what we have previously and get a good run with it. And if not, we can change it if we have to, depending on the application.
Yeah, and so based on the application, if you have better injection system into the engine,
More
maybe
fuel.
better fuel flow, exactly, we can adjust for that, right?
Yes.
And then exhaust system, if you have the upgraded
Up pipes.
Up pipes, that's obviously freeing up flow. We can
Yes.
develop a little bit more power without any downsides, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, bigger turbos, stock turbo, bigger impellers, and
Yeah, so literally Cheeto's kind of developed tunes for every application and combinations of applications, including alternate firing cams,
Yes.
oversized pistons. I mean,
All that stuff.
you name it, it's dialed in. And really, the proof is right here, because on the screen, it's telling us exactly what we're getting and what we're supposed to get. So oftentimes, a lot of builders are going to go through and throw parts at it, put it in the truck, drive it, and then kind of the seat of their pants feel like, it feels better than before. But really,
You could be
what's
doing
that?
more damage to your vehicle.
Yeah, you don't know really where you're at. But this, I actually read it out, and getting back to the EGTs, we're watching those EGTs, so we can see that if there's an issue with like too much fuel, we can actually pull back some of the fuel and then adjust for that. So you have an engine that's truly, truly tuned specifically for your needs. It's pretty cool. All right, so I got Flo here. Flo is our master engine builder. Has been with us for too many years to count, and literally knows every aspect of the engine, specifically the Duramax and the Cummins and 6.5 turbo diesel, as well as the 6.5 NA. But he knows engines inside and out, and that's literally all he does here is builds up all of our engines. So Flo's going to walk us through some of the work that we do here, and I guess we can start with the block itself. So the block, this block right here is the 6.6 Duramax. This is going to be a fully remanufactured engine, and to give you a little quick breakdown, remanufactured, reseal versus new. Oftentimes a remanufactured engine, pretty much all the time, remanufactured engine is a better way to go than a brand new engine. The reason for that is it's been fully heat cycled. So this engine block, because it has been run before, it has been used, has gone through all the heat cycles. It's literally a hardened block, so it's much stronger than a stock brand new engine block. That's typically where you see your failures, which is early on or later on. Obviously, we can get into some of that stuff later. But this is our fully remanufactured engine block, and literally everything internally is being replaced on it. All right, so we got the main caps. Obviously much stronger. They're completely different than the stock ones, as I can see here. Look like they're billet steel, right?
Yes, they are. And also with that, we went with the ARP main studs, which on a build like this that you're going to be putting out 750, 850 horsepower, you want to beef up your lower end.
Yeah, so this motor is actually flipped upside down. And so the crank goes inside here, which connects onto your connecting rods, your pistons, and so on. However, this whole bottom end could potentially go if it wasn't strong enough, especially when you're turning, like Flo said, 750, 850 horsepower. You've got a lot of mass spinning in here, and that's where the billet caps come into play. The ARP main studs are super important because they hold everything together. They're much harder than the stock ones. They've been pre-stretched. They're the way to go. Only a couple $100. Throw them on there. Especially, it's a must on these high horsepower builds. But on the lower ones too, even a stock one, I definitely throw those on there. And we'll get into the main studs too on the other side here in just a minute. But that should come with the main studs as well. So why don't we take a look at the crank on this guy?
So over here we have a forged crank.
Here, why don't you show them too the difference? So take a look at this. This is a forging right here. You can see it's like a lot smoother. And then if we go over here, this is a cast crank, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. It's extremely strong. But again, when you get into that high horsepower stuff, you really want the forging. But you can see, like, it's a lot more porous. You can see some of that porosity here. And the issue is you can get that porosity inside the rest of the crank. It creates like a weak link inside there, where the forging is just compressed steel. The stuff is extremely strong. It's just a whole nother level when you get up to that crank there. So,
And also with this upgrade, we have SoCal's alternative firing order cam, which one of the problems that Duramax had, or the engine, is the firing order ends in 3 and starts 1 and 2. So the weakest point on the crank is right here. You have 3 cylinders firing right after each other, right here in the main.
so it's just like shock loading that one area, right? Just
Yes.
over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough. So that obviously creates a weak link on that crank, right?
Yes, correct.
And so that one changed it, right?
Yes. Yep.
So also on this build in particular, we're going with the forged pistons. So take a look at these guys here. Much stronger than stock. Instead of just cast aluminum pistons, they're forged aluminum pistons, which are just obviously stronger. So really good way to go. Again, not necessary on a stock truck, 500 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. But when you get up to 750, 850 horsepower, you need a little bit more strength in your pistons. And then obviously new heads are going in place. These are all remanufactured heads that we do. And here shortly we'll start building this thing up, and should hit the road in like what, another 60 days at the most or so, 45 days, something like that.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out the video and going through the shop tour here in the Predator Engine Lab. We've got an amazing build coming up. It'll be out on the next video. This is a high horsepower, high performance, 750, 850 horsepower. That's what Florencio here is claiming. So let's see if he can put his magic to the steel and see what numbers we get out of on the dyno. So make sure you check out the video coming up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get updates when it does come out. We're thinking a couple weeks or so. But once it's all done, it'll be updated, and check us out then. Thanks for watching.